Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin from the Modern Observer Group. And with me, as always, is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how you doing this week?
Doing great. How you doing, Eric?
Doing fantastic. We're coming up. We've got little winter weather here this week in New England. And, of course, across the country, we've had some massive storms, most of which just missed us.
Yeah, today we're getting all the wind, but without any of the precipitation. So,
yeah, and around the country they got a lot of rain and a lot of snow from this one, so we lucked out.
Yeah, this was all the way back in Arizona, Southwest and stuff that don't normally get this kind of thing.
So yeah, we've been pretty lucky this winter. We're coming up on some more winter weather, but we're almost through.
It's almost March.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about something that's very important, both for a business and an individual, and actually for governments as well. And it's living within your means. Now, I heard a great saying the other day. It was the rich stay rich by acting poor, and the poor stay poor by acting rich.
That is quite a saying.
It is. And it's very apropos to, and the fact of the matter is, if you live within your means, you can be more successful because you're not worried about the bills. You're not worried about making ends meet. And I mean, it's not as easy as we're making it sound, but there's a lot of things you can do to make sure you are living within your means and that you're not, overextending yourself. And I think one of the first steps that anybody can take is to take a serious inventory of what you are spending. Put together what your budget is. How much are you spending on food, on utilities, on going out, on television, on movies, whatever it is you're spending money on? Put together a budget. Because unless you know what you're spending, you can't figure out how to spend less.
Yeah, and a good way to track all this stuff is somehow use a program electronically. There's software out there that can do this for you, or if you just wanted to do your check register in Microsoft Excel and just have a column for the different types of expenses you have and put that in there, you can automatically total those things up. But it's really, really important, not only to get a handle on what you're spending, but sit down and take a look at what you're making, what you are expecting to make also, because the bottom line is you got to make sure that you're not spending more than you make.
Right. And that starts with this budget, is figuring out exactly what you're spending. And then once you have that, you can see, well, where are you spending more than you really need to? A few years ago, in my family, we took a look at, we had for a television provider, DirecTV. And we were taking a good look at our DirecTV bill, and we were absolutely aggravated. And we figured out that we were paying this $186 bill, but we only watched 15 channels of the 200 we had. So we looked at where we could cut costs on that. Now, the first thing you can do is actually call the provider and find out if you can get a better deal. Sometimes they'll cut you a better deal. Sometimes they'll figure something out. In this particular case, DirecTV was unwilling to cut us a deal. And the problem was the channels that we did watch were all on their higher tiers. So we had to pay for a whole lot of things we never used in order to get the things we did. So we canceled the service and we went to over-the-top providers. Now, over-the-top providers, for those of you who aren't familiar with the term, these are TV providers that stream over the internet. So we got Netflix, we got Hulu, we had Amazon Prime, we got Sling for live TV. And all of those combined cost less than half of what DirecTV was costing us. And it gave us more things we actually watched. So you need to take a look at what you're spending and what you're actually using when you spend that.
Yeah, you make a really good point there. It's once you analyze what you're looking at, you definitely have to look at what you were just talking about is trimming the fat and basically distinguishing between what you want and what you need. So if you can take a look at different things such as food, this, that, and whatever things that you definitely are going to have versus things that are more luxury items and you're coming closer to the edge as far as what you're making, that's a great place to start. We've also talked in the past, one of the things you have to make sure that you're doing is paying yourself first, putting some money away for savings and for shortages and so on and so forth, because life is not going to run smooth all the time and you have to build up something on the side to cover that.
Absolutely. We talked a lot about paying yourself first when we talked about the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's one of the key lessons in that book. And it's very important. When your paycheck comes in, whether you're self-employed or you're working for someone else, you need to take a portion of that and put it into savings, investments, wherever it is you're going to put it, an emergency fund. We had a situation a number of years ago where we were hit with a massive blizzard. And the blizzard knocked out power all over the state. Well, not only did it knock out the power, it also knocked out power to ATMs. So we were unable to get money to buy what we needed. Wasn't that we didn't have it, but we had no access to it. So after that, I started taking $20 a week out of what I was saving and putting it aside in cash. And this was the emergency fund. This wasn't for investing. This was for just in case when we needed cash, like during that blizzard. Well, a few years later, we have another blizzard. This time the power goes out, but it comes right back. Well, the surge knocked out our refrigerator. Beyond help, it's dead. We now need to go get a new refrigerator. Well, I was able to look at the emergency fund and go, oh, guess what? We've got enough for the refrigerator, no problem. We went out, we bought it, we got it taken care of. You need to put money aside for emergencies like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And once you're starting to do a little bit better and you are coming up with a surplus every month, it's really, really important to budget that accordingly too. So if you want to have vacations and this and that, whatever, if you set those things up as a long-term goal thing, you put things aside and you don't do it automatically just because you have the money, it's really, really important to do that too. So you got to plan things out. It's also really, really important. You know, you talked about the TV, but there's other recurring expenses out there that you can take a look at also. And if you are a savvy shopper, there's always deals out there for you to look at because you can use the internet as your friend to research a whole bunch of different things. And one of the nice things you can do with that is, you know, if you're looking at repairs or this or that, you can pit one company against the other just by doing your research and save a whole lot of money doing things just by what we call shopping savvy.
Yes. And don't be afraid to pit companies against each other. Tell them quite frankly, look, I wouldn't mind using you, but this other company's giving the exact same service for less. See if you can get a deal from them. Very often you can get certain things. Again, like I said with TV, but there's also your phone. There, if you still have a landline, look closely if you really need it, or if you can just have your cell phone. Most of us have cell phones at this point. We had a landline for years, and the only reason we were keeping it is because there were a couple of elderly family members that had that number, and quite frankly, we didn't think they could learn a new number at this point. Well, what we were able to do is for $20 a month, we got a voice over IP phone system, transferred the old lines there, and when somebody called it, it forwarded right to our cell phones. So that dropped something like $80, $90 a month off of our budget because we were paying for something we didn't really need. And something else, like Chip, you mentioned food. You really need to take a look when you're buying food at how much you're buying and how much you're throwing out. I mean, if you're getting food at, say, a Costco or a Sam's Club, it may be a great buy, per item. But if you're not finishing them and you have to throw them out, you're better off getting smaller items at a supermarket. By the same token, you should pay attention to where you're shopping. Where I live, we've got 2 major supermarkets. We've got a Walmart that carries groceries, and we've got 2 smaller discount food stores, an Aldi and a Price Right. And we routinely shop every one of them, going, well, the price is better at Price Right this week, so we'll get there. We get certain things at each place that we know they have the best price on. And we save money that way. You always have to pay attention to what's around and not just go to the place you always go.
Yeah, and as we've said, the internet has all this information. I mean, if you go shopping at different places, you're probably getting weekly flyers from them as far as what they have. If you're still getting something called the newspaper, there's probably so there's a lot of things that you can do as far as looking at different ways to save money. But doing comparison shopping is a really, really important way to do that. So
and there are apps that will do it for you. If you're looking for a specific item, you put in the item in your zip code and it will tell you the best price around you. You can do that for groceries. You can do that for gas. You can do it for quite a number of items.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're looking online for stuff, obviously all you got to do is go into Google Shopping and it's going to compare a whole bunch of different things for you when you're shopping around for things also.
And sometimes you also need to take into consideration when you need this. If it's something you need right now, okay, you're going to run out and get it. But if it's something you're not going to need till next week, very often you can order it online. And if you don't need it for a week, you can get free shipping that usually takes 4 or 5 days. And you can save money that way.
One of the, I'm sure a lot of you folks out there have heard of a financial planner. He has a show every week, or maybe even more often, and his name